there's something strange happening online. The people who seem the most confident, the most grounded, the most in control of their lives are often the ones you never see. No posts, no updates, no proof they even exist. And that's not an accident, because what most people see as inactive is actually a very different kind of power. In this video, you're going to understand the real psychology behind people who don't use social media much. Not the obvious reasons, but the deeper ones, the ones that quietly separate them from everyone else. And by the end, you might start seeing your own behavior very differently. Think about this for a second. When was the last time you posted something? Now think about the last time you almost posted but didn't. That moment right there is where everything starts. Because something stopped you. Not your phone, not your internet, your mind. And most people completely ignore what that moment is trying to tell them. Sit with that for a second. You had the photo, you had the caption, you were seconds away from sharing it, and then something felt off. Not wrong, just unnecessary. That quiet hesitation, that's awareness. And most people override it instantly. They hit post anyway, but the people who don't, they pause. And that pause changes everything. Most people don't post because they want to share. They post because they want to confirm something, that they're happy, that they're successful, that their life is moving forward. It's not communication, it's validation, a subtle signal that says, look, I'm doing okay, and there's nothing unusual about that. Humans naturally seek reassurance. But here's where the difference begins. People who don't post, they've already answered that question internally. They don't need an audience to agree with their life. They don't need likes to confirm their worth. And because of that, they don't feel the same pressure to prove anything. And the moment you stop needing proof, you stop performing, you stop thinking, how does this look? And start asking, how does this feel? That shift alone changes how you experience your entire life. Here's what most people won't admit. Social media isn't just a place to connect. It's a system where attention is rewarded, appearance is optimized, and reality is edited. Every post is a decision. Every caption is curated. Every image is selected from multiple versions. And over time, you stop sharing your life. You start designing it, designing moments that are post-worthy, designing experiences that look good from the outside. And the more you do that, the more you start living for the reaction instead of the reality. But people who step away from this, they see the system clearly. They understand something most people don't. You're not seeing people's lives. You're seeing their highlights filtered through intention. And once you truly understand that, it becomes hard to participate the same way. Not because you can't play the game, but because you realize you don't want to. But here's the part almost no one talks about. Even people who don't post feel the pull. They open the app, they take the picture, they start typing, and then they stop. They delete it. Why? Because there's a quiet question running in the background. Is this really me, or just a version I want others to see? That question is uncomfortable because it forces honesty, and honesty doesn't always align with presentation. Most people ignore that tension. They push through it. They post anyway, but the ones who don't, they start trusting that feeling. They start respecting that hesitation. And over time, that builds something powerful, self-awareness. Because instead of projecting an image, they start understanding themselves. Every time you post something online, you create a version of yourself, a version people remember, judge, compare. And once that version exists, you feel pressure to maintain it. If you post about success, you feel pressure to keep succeeding. If you post about happiness, you feel pressure to keep looking happy. If you present confidence, you feel pressure to never show doubt. Slowly, without realizing it, your real life starts adjusting to your online identity. You begin filtering your actions through perception. What will people think? How will this look? Should I share this? And over time, that version of you becomes a character you have to protect. But people who don't post much, they avoid building that character entirely. They don't create a version they have to maintain, so they don't feel trapped by it. They stay closer to who they actually are, not who they appear to be. And that difference is freedom. There's a subtle shift that happens when you stop thinking about posting. Moments begin to feel different. A conversation becomes deeper because you're fully present. You're not half listening while thinking about capturing it. A trip becomes richer because you're not trying to frame it perfectly. You're experiencing it directly. An achievement feels more meaningful because it belongs only to you, not to an audience, not to a reaction, just you. Most people divide their attention, half on the moment, half on the possibility of sharing it, and that split changes the experience. It makes it shallower, less real. But people who don't post, they keep their attention in one place, and that makes everything feel more vivid, more personal, more real. Now here's something most people misunderstand about confidence. They think confidence is visible, loud, expressed, proven. But real confidence often looks like silence. Because real confidence isn't, "Look at me." It's, "I don't need you to look." People who don't rely on social media validation build their self-worth differently, not from reactions, but from reflection, not from attention, but from alignment. They measure themselves internally by their values, their actions, their consistency, and that kind of confidence is much harder to break because it wasn't built in public. It wasn't dependent on approval. It doesn't fluctuate based on engagement. It stays stable. Even when no one is watching, there's another layer most people miss. People who avoid posting aren't disconnected. They're often more observant. They notice things others don't. The shift in someone's tone, the pattern in what people choose to share, the difference between what's shown and what's real. Because when you're not focused on performing, you have more mental space to observe, to reflect, to think. Instead of asking, "How do I look?" they ask, "What's actually happening?" And that creates a deeper understanding of people, of behavior, of reality, which is a different kind of advantage. Quiet, but powerful. Now here's the paradox no one realizes. Social media promises connection, confidence, expression, but often creates comparison, pressure, performance. You go on to feel connected, but end up comparing. You go on to express yourself, but start editing yourself. You go on to feel confident, but become dependent on feedback. And slowly, without noticing, you start chasing the very things the platform promised to give you. But the people who step away, they already have those things. Not perfectly, but internally, they don't avoid social media because they're missing something. They avoid it because they found it somewhere else. Control, clarity, a sense of self that doesn't depend on being seen. Think about it. If you truly felt secure, would you need to prove it? If you truly felt happy, would you need to display it? If you truly felt confident, would you need others to confirm it? Probably not. And that's the difference. People who don't post much aren't trying to convince anyone of anything, not even themselves. And that changes how they move through the world. So when you see someone who never posts, don't assume they're inactive. Don't assume they're missing out. Most of the time, it means something very different. It means they don't need validation. They see through the system. They protect their identity. They value real experience. And they've built a kind of confidence that doesn't need to be shown. It's quiet, but it's real. If this made you think a little differently, then something important just happened. You started noticing. And once you start noticing, you can't go back to seeing things the same way. Because now, the next time you open an app, the next time you take a photo, the next time you almost post something, you'll feel that moment again, that hesitation, that question. And this time, you might not ignore it. Because once you understand this, you'll start noticing something else. Not just who doesn't post, but how the people who post the most are often revealing far more than they intend. Their insecurities, their need for validation, their attempts to control perception. And suddenly, social media stops looking like confidence and starts looking like something else entirely. And that's where the real psychology gets even deeper. If this perspective shifted the way you see things even slightly, then you're already thinking at a different level. For more insights like this, consider subscribing to the channel and sharing your thoughts in the comments below. I'd be interested to hear your perspective on this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.